All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Living the Dream podcast. Today, our guest is Jordan Skopp, founder of Foul Ball Safety Now, and we'll get to hear a lot more about that, a lot more about Jordan. So let's get right into it. Jordan, how you doing?
Hey, Timothy, thanks so much for having me. Pretty
Yeah,
good, thank you.
yeah, no, of course, it's a pleasure to have you, and thank you for coming on the show. We always enjoy having people on. So we like to jump right in, and we want to start with getting to know you a little bit. So if you could tell us about your family, where you're from, and some of the stuff you like to do for fun.
Sure. So, born in Brooklyn, just still have relatives that live in the area. Just been running solo for my whole life. Been an adult for quite a number of years now. So, that story is what it is. I love going to games with friends, solo. It could be any type of game. Just big sports fan. Like being there. Like going and attending games. Basketball, hockey, baseball, football, not as much, even though I had attended some pretty big football games over the years, but not really a regular football game goer.
Gotcha. Okay, so got some relatives in the Brooklyn area, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
love going to just sports events in general.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Okay, I love it. I love it. So, what do you do right now? What is your occupation? Tell us a little bit about
Uh, yep. I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of New York, which allows me to work and sell residential or commercial property. So that's something that I've been experienced at for a number of years. Um, and I've been on this campaign for a few years. So I've had some time, made the time because I felt like it was really important to put a lot of energy and some of my own money into this campaign, just to bring attention to this big issue that we're going to be discussing.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure we'll jump more into the campaign. But before that,
Yes.
you're a licensed real estate broker in New York. I am a licensed agent in Texas.
Oh, hey, there you go. There you go. Are you going to be a broker at some point?
I don't think I'll go on the brokerage side of the business. So I got jumped in as an
Yep.
agent, was doing residential, and decided to make the shift to syndicating multifamily apartments.
Okay.
And so that's kind of my focus now. And then I help people house hack as a realtor, which is like, buying a 4 bedroom, 5 bedroom, or a duplex, triplex, quadplex on an FHA loan
Ah,
and renting out the bedroom so you can live for free. Because I'm a young guy. I like to help young people start to build their wealth. And I think that's a great way to do it.
that's really good. And I'm sure you do follow every which way you can, be a benefit to the real estate community. So that's really good on you. My transactions are usually very general and straightforward. There's probably a lot of different creative ways I probably could have figured out on how to dive into and get more involved in. But yeah, more power to you. Enjoy and good luck.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Always nice to meet a fellow real estate guy.
Uh-huh.
All right, tell us a little bit more about this campaign and foul ball safety.
Yeah. Yeah, no, tremendous. Just speaking of Texas and your state, there was a famous incident from 2 years ago that really got me involved. A little girl in Houston got slammed with a ball, and she was very seriously injured. And I just thought at that point in time, I was like, well, when is this going to end? And I just started doing this research and just started coming up with, conviction about, hey, how come this has been going on for so long? And self-publishing articles, which I put at Foul Ball Safety Now on my website, things that I had written when I first started this campaign, just feeling like there wasn't enough being spoken up about the problem from all the insiders of the game, which are the baseball writers, which are the broadcasters, which are the owners, and certainly the players. And I made some accusations or some strong statements, and I stand by them today. Certainly, after I've been involved in this campaign for 2 years, doing the research, learning how many children have been seriously injured, learning about these impact statements that people have been coming to me with from people that I've been meeting on this journey. So, interviewing people that have been seriously injured by foul balls and collecting a lot of interviews from those folks and hearing that it's not just this one incident that it impacts them. It's a whole longer term thing. I mean, some of them do have long term injuries, and neurological issues, lost eyes, relatives that have lost lives, and just becoming involved with these people, which are only about a handful. It reminds me that there's so many more that haven't found us yet at Foul Ball Safety Now, and it's going to give them an opportunity to be interviewed for the book and also to give an impact statement. And I think it'll remind us all that it wasn't a free ride at the game. And, foul balls, the association most folks make with foul balls is flirting with fun and bringing your glove, but not really think of the extreme, which is, the death, the danger of the death that comes with it. So, yeah, I mean, it's extreme, but it happens.
Gotcha. Yeah, I will say I totally when I think of foul balls, I thought what you're doing is interesting because I only ever think of like catching a foul ball as a kid and like being excited, and
Mm-hmm.
getting to keep the ball. But part of
Mm-hmm.
me always wondered, I was like, are there people that like just get wrecked with these foul balls? And apparently there are a lot of them. And so I'm glad you're doing
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they are. And the problem is that baseball's known about this forever, right? And they unfortunately knew, foreseeable, predictable. It wasn't a matter of if things would get crushed, it was when. And I do believe, like most fans, didn't really have any ideas that they were flirting with more than fun. They didn't think they were flirting with danger or death. And it would have been nice if they were told that prior and thinking about bringing their kid. And if adults want to go flirt with danger or death, like they want to go run with the bulls, I don't think you're allowed to bring your kid, that kind of thing. And it's like baseball's been kind of getting away with it forever. And I don't think the journalists have sort of like rank and filed on this, or the broadcasters, and sort of said, hey, you know what? We're not gonna deal with this no more. Our families are secure, but most fans are not. I mean, even in the minor leagues, there are like 5,000 minor league players all looking for 750 jobs. Most of them will not make the finish journey to the majors. Somewhere along the line, their dreams of being major leagues will be over, and they'll, you know, give up the game, or at least on an opportunity, at least with expectations of making the major leagues. But those minor leaguers, they bear the burden knowing that they're playing in a non-unionized arena, a non-unionized community of minor league players. They don't have a union as of yet, and they can't even, only tell their own families. They can tell their own families to sit in secure sections, but I've interviewed a few of them for my book, and they've told their own families to sit in sections, but they can't get on the public address and tell everybody else because that would be like, whoa. But maybe they feel like doing it because they know that somebody in their community is going to seriously injure somebody that year. So it's kind of like a double standard. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to bring out all that stuff and try to make baseball a sport that we can enjoy as spectators and not realize. And I do want to bring the epiphany or the awareness to everyone who's been to games all those years that your good times are unfortunately may have been tainted. And I'm sorry to put a cloud on that memory, but once you realize that your family was in a statistic of a weekly or a biweekly emergency room visit, you may think like you were having a good time under false pretenses. And I believe that is the proper memory for those folks, because if they knew or had any inclination that their children could have been hauled off to an emergency room, I don't think they would have ever brought their families to those situations. That's my opinion. But right now, Timothy, it's just you and I, and the owners or the writers or the broadcasters or the players. It's going to be tough to get them on and get their point of view. But we can
Yeah.
continue putting out that narrative until somebody disputes it, and I certainly will continue to do that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that is awesome. So tell me a little bit about your motivation. I know you talked a little bit about the little girl in Houston that got slammed with a ball and was seriously
Yeah,
injured, but tell us
yeah.
a little bit more about what gets you up and going every day in terms of foul ball safety now, but also just
Mm-hmm.
in your daily life as a real estate broker.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you. So, I would stick more about the foul ball safety now issue right now. It's just the right thing is right in front of us and it's there to be done. And even if it means, you know, being the minority or just, finding advocates, one at a time to join me in this as I've gotten victims to join me. I have a handful of victims who are inspiring me to keep on coming forward with this. If you noticed, I did have earned media. If you guys go to foulballsafetynow.com, I had hired a publicist from November 2020 till June of 2021. And, articles like People Magazine and LA Times, LA Daily News, Forbes Magazine, Boston Globe, all articles which mention foul ball safety now and what I'm doing. But they're only summaries. It's not that real investigative piece. And some would say that I'm the investigative guy that keeps on bringing up the statistics, how many children have been hurt, how predictable this is, how many people were maimed in the last full season of Major League Baseball, how many minor league clubs still have no nets past the dugouts, which are around 42, and that little girl, where was she hurt? Past the end of the dugouts. So, one would say I'm the investigative reporter. And until a big reporter comes along and decides to really write the whole story, I have to keep on bringing this up, and I will. So that really motivates me. And the book is coming together, and I will have final say on how the book starts and how the book will finish. In essence, we're producing a book, and we have all the ingredients, but we just want to make sure the story is edited right or expressed the right way to keep the reader in tune and understand that I'm an equal opportunity offender, man. I'm just going to keep taking them on, and I'm going to do it, and I got to do it. So it's exciting, it's motivating, it's sad. I'm still a baseball guy, but most fans, unfortunately, Timothy, still today are thinking foul balls and fun, and they're not thinking, certainly out of those minor league ballparks, nearly 100 of them, Timothy. I connected to 40. I connected with nearly 100 of the minor league cities that host games, and at least 42 still had no nets past dugouts. And that's telling me we need an independent netting council and somebody of that's the solution, Timothy. I'll just tell you, which is what's the fix? The fix is no more baseball. You don't know where to put the nets. The independent netting council, which is an independent body like a regulatory agency, needs to go into every one of those 120 minor league ballparks and every one of those 30 major league ballparks, and they need to understand how fast, how often these balls go, and what speeds, how high, how far, how wide the nets need to go. And that's it. And then we could all go to a game and see a sign hung in the ballpark from the Independent Netting Council saying, this ballpark is maiming free, folks. Have a nice day. So that's where it's at. That's where I'm going with it.
Yeah, for sure. And so I guess that is a great segue into our next section of the podcast, which is directly
Sure.
about your dreams and goals. So I guess you'd say your vision for foul ball
Yeah.
safety now is that independent kind of council
Netting
that,
council. Yeah, like an architects and engineers that they know. It's not the baseball's engineers and architects. It's like if they want to be open for business, you either work with these guys or you can't be open for business. You can't allow a building with bricks to be loose and you're waiting for the cement to you're waiting for the cement to come to be delivered, so then it'll reinforce the bricks and have bricks raining down from time to time. You need to reinforce those bricks. You need to prevent those balls hitting children in split seconds, and if adults want to make a mutual decision with management and they want to flirt with danger and death like running with the bulls, fine, but so be it. It should be spelled out that way. And that unfortunately has been the status quo. And it's only been revealed in microprint. And when I say that, nobody ever looked at the microprint. When I say that, people look at it, but they don't take it seriously. That was on the back of the ticket, which baseball had on each ticket, now on the back of the e-tickets, or through the e-ticket, if you search for it on your phone or wherever, you could find a little bit of a micro print, which basically says, if we hurt you or kill you, we're not responsible. And like, imagine if they ever put that up on the scoreboard, families would be looking at it for the first time saying, wait, should we be sitting here? And they'd be putting two and two together. And they'd be going to my website and learning about 43 children since 2008 have been seriously injured in major league games. And and when I say that, it's not even accounting the minor leagues. Most of the injuries that I found from 2008 to 2019, 43 children with serious injuries from baseballs, and most of that accounted from the major leagues. But since we realized there are 3 times as many more games at the minor leagues, and the accounting of the statistical injury may not be recorded at the minor league level because there's less accurate information, less media possible, we believe that number could be over 100. But we do know of the 43. We do know of 15 people at major league games in 2019, according to Kelsey McKinney at Deadspin. 15 people in a 26 and one half week season. That tells me that once every other week, give or take, somebody is being hauled off to the emergency room. So that, and we don't know what was the deal in the minor leagues. Maybe there were 40 or 50 people rushed off to the emergency room, considered that there's 3 times as many more games. And
Gotcha.
whatever. I don't want to stretch the numbers. There's no need to. Maybe the minor league season wasn't 26 and a half weeks and it was only 18 weeks. I'm not going to split hairs. I don't want to, and I want to talk conservative numbers. I don't want to exaggerate anything. There's no need to. I just want to present all this information to your listeners so they can go to the website and see what I've discovered, what I'm learning, and happy to share anything else.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate it. And so I guess the next question is typically what caused you to take that first step towards this goal and
Sure.
dream. But we know that that's the little girl in Houston, right?
Sure, she was the tipping point. She got me involved. I mean, I kind of knew this from being a baseball fan. I had a couple of close calls myself, but didn't think about becoming an activist or some sort of game, changing, the moving the needle a little bit, like a change agent, if you will. But I felt like I can do this and I could follow through with this. And I just feel like there's a baseball rule that baseball owners have been hiding behind for over 100 years. That's that microprint that I talked about. And people who have had no recourse, very little recourse if they've been seriously injured by a ball. Usually they'll get to their lawyer's office and the lawyer will say, sorry, folks, the baseball rule, it's on the back of the ticket, they're not responsible. And then sometimes the lawyer will take a case and they'll get to the first round of the court proceeding. And then the judge will say, sorry, guys, you can't proceed, the baseball rule. And then in a couple of cases, there have been some moving of the needle where the judge would say something like, okay, it's time to discover what baseball really knew. Let's find out. Because similar to big tobacco, when big tobacco was forced to share what they knew, it actually, we found out that baseball had written documents that really showed that smoking was terrible. And they had all the proof, and they got in big trouble when all these hearings took place 25 years ago or so. And they had to pay billions and billions of dollars out. With baseball now, I'm not suggesting they have this secretive data, but I do believe when the baseball hears the word discovery in the court, they get nervous. So they don't want to reveal what they have behind closed doors. So they will make a settlement in those cases with the plaintiff. So that secretive data stays secret. I have a joke which I say, which is serious message, that when Bud Selick, who was the former commissioner, who's not a lawyer, but he actually teaches law for some reason, who gave the keys to Manfred, and Manfred's been commissioner now for 7 years or so. He said to him, "Hey, now that you're commissioner, you make sure that door stays shut, and those secrets stay secret. We got to keep baseball wholesome image." So that's sort of my joke. I don't know that for sure, but I do believe baseball does not want to reveal what they have privy to. Now, NBC did something which implied this is what baseball already knew. And NBC is big station in New York, or this was national, excuse me, and it's big in New York as well. But it was a national news story. You guys can check out the NBC foul ball report, and it implied the LA Times guy implied after breaking down the data that from 2012 to 2019, 4,500 people reported to first aid. On my website, I said 5,000, but at least the LA Times guy said 4,500. Breaking down the NBC piece on how many people reported to first aid from just 4 of the 30 first aid responders. The other 26 did not comply. But if you took all those numbers, it sounds like 4,500 or 5,000 people. If they took all the 30 teams and all the math was done equally, all those people reported to first aid in Major League Baseball. Now, all of those 4,500 people obviously didn't have crushed heads or lost eyes, but certainly more than a few. And that's sad. I know a few myself.
Yeah,
Um,
for
how
sure.
many of those 4,500 were, life-changing head injuries or lost eyes? 100? Well, then those 100 out of 4,500 need to find me a foul ball safety now. Even if it was less, maybe it was more, whatever it may be, those people need to find me. Those balls fly in at 100 miles per hour. Baseball knows it's not every 50 years that people are getting slammed with balls. They know it's quite often. And I'm even investigating some of these StatCast companies to see if they keep track of foul balls. One guy in particular, he says 53,000 foul balls go into the stands a year. I mean, are fouled off every year. And he said maybe 1/3 of those reach the seats. So I think we all know that more than one foul ball of the 20,000 went more than 100. I mean, give me a break. So let everyone else figure that out. And
Yeah.
just to say, what is that, 60,000 balls on the minor league level? Because there's 3 times as many more games, or 4,500 people reported to first aid. And this is based on only MLB, maybe 13,500 injuries on the minor league level. How many of them had the crushed heads and the lost eyes? I do know about 2 deaths, both at Dodger Stadium. One was in 1970, which clearly was the time for baseball to have an honest discussion, but they chose not to. And the regulatory agencies apparently didn't get the memo, and they still haven't gotten the memo because they would have appointed an independent netting council, would have said to MLB, no, 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 no. We're putting up the nets, whether they obscure people's visions or not. The nets go up or the kids do not attend the games.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
need to
No,
be
absolutely.
transparent, like seatbelts in the 70s. They told the parents, your kids can't roll around the back. So clearly, since 1970, when Alan Fisher died, and then again in 2018, the other death at Dodger Stadium that I'm familiar with was Erwin Goldblum's wife, Linda Goldblum. Erwin's been to 6 or 7 of my press conferences this year. Erwin's been very vocal about trying to change things. His wife was killed in 2018. The ball went behind home plate 93 miles an hour. Media didn't even get wind of it till like 6 months later. So, that's a whole nother story in itself. But Irwin's been great. His daughter's been part of a couple of the press conferences. She's been good. A couple of Alexises who are both teenagers now. One who was 4 years old in Kansas City when she got slammed, and she has long-term personal neurological issues. She's 14. She interviewed for the book. Another Alexis, who at the time was
Gotcha. All right,
10.
Jordan.
Yeah, yeah,
I guess
yeah.
my question is,
Yes.
So there's a lot of people that don't know about this, and then there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who have been affected by it dramatically. So what are the most important one or two things that that the common person, the common person that goes to a baseball game can do to help you out?
Well, there's things they can do now. They can go to the website and they could sign the petitions. And as the families are trying to convey, it's not a free ride at the game. It could happen to those folks. And they should take precaution because baseball hasn't and still hasn't. Half measures don't cut it. There's a term I learned in legalese called willful wanton, which is implying in one case now in Illinois, the Eddie Rybarsky case, she's saying the case can proceed because of willful want and wanton, spelled want on, willful wanton, suggesting that baseball did not put the netting up where they needed to put it to begin with. They made a conscious decision not to go all the way, high, far, wide. They can sign the petitions at Foul Ball Safety Now to ask for more netting. They can sign the petition. There's two petitions. They can sign another petition uh, that's repealing the baseball rule. Both those petitions, we can get public policy going. We can get real political action. Right now, all there's been has been a couple of games of volleyball between MLB and a couple of senators in Illinois by the name of Durbin and Duckworth. And he said that MLB should come up with something in 2019 about transparency and where it's safe for families to sit. And then they met again a few months ago, which is 2021. Do the math, 2 years. MLB did not come up with that report that the senators suggested they do. And again, Durbin spun it like, oh, we're doing like an investigative, an internal thing about nets, and Durbin, kind of let him
Gotcha.
slide. Let him
So,
slide.
so if
Yeah.
people wanted to help out, they could go to the website and sign the petitions
Yes.
and
Yes.
take precaution because baseball hasn't and still doesn't. But I guess my next question is, if you were to have a few people that you can meet right now that would help
Mm-hmm.
you take the next step, like two or three key people that would help you take the
Mm-hmm.
next step in foul ball safety now, who would they be
Mm-hmm.
and how would they do it?
Well, it's going to require some real money. And I like, if you guys noticed, I rented out two airplanes this year, one in Peoria, where they were the worst of the worst. They had no nets at all over the dugout. Crazy. Look at the video of the Tampa Bay of the ball going in between the two guys. That could happen in Peoria. Maybe they got their nets, but they certainly were open for business for first few months of the season because yeah, I would ask, and then another one in Iowa. I would ask somebody who they could also come to the website, and if they have some dollars that they want to chip in with me, it costs money to get people involved, to move politicians, lobbying, things like that. It would be somebody who has deeper pockets than I, who can help us get public policy going. We want to bring a ruling in. We want to end the baseball rule, and we want an independent netting council to finally come in, so we know that each ballpark that is under the wing of baseball, the minor leagues and the major leagues, not even talking about the independent leagues and the colleges, just those 150 ballparks to be certified as safe. We need an act of Congress. So it would be a few of those folks. I don't need anyone else. I just need somebody who wants to take this, wants to take, wants to tell me to go back to selling real estate full time and take this campaign. I'll be like, yeah, all right, you can take it from me and roll. But somebody with influence, somebody who has money, somebody who's going to be just as spirited as I am about this. Those are the two or three people. Those are the people, Timothy, that I would love to meet.
Gotcha. Okay. Somebody with some real money and real influence that can kind of start that lobbying process and get this ball rolling.
Yes, or fly some airplanes over cities, make some statements. I rented out two airplanes. They cost thousands of dollars every time I do that. One said, "Hey Peoria Nets, foulballsafetynow.com. You guys can see the video up there. Some eyewitness news coverage. It was all right. Local coverage in Peoria, things like that. And then there was another one. If you guys are big baseball fans, you might have watched that Field of Dreams game like a month and a half ago in August over Dyersville, Iowa. I rented out an airplane, and instead of Field of Dreams, I wrote Field of Screams, just so the people below can say, "Oh, there's a guy who's making a statement." Well, yeah, I am making a statement because we all need to shine a light on this issue. It's not a free ride at the ballpark. Baseball doesn't want to, you know, take care of this. They failed to take care of this issue in 1970, certainly after a 14-year-old boy died, with Alan Fish. Um, and I believe there's no integrity in baseball, and we all need to step up. We all need to. There's a double standard going on, and I'm going to talk about it in my book. How the writers don't want to bite the hand that feed them because they're baseball journalists and they just want to write about the game. But I believe that for years people have been getting close to, or seriously close or injured every game practically. If 20,000 balls are reaching the seats every year in major league games and 60,000 in the minor leagues, we all know that those balls are flying at serious speeds and reaching seats and ricocheting and connecting with people or beers or pretzels. It's connecting with things. Unfortunately it's people too. So
So
yeah,
I guess I'm
yeah,
curious
sure.
why baseball isn't taking care of the netting. Like, does it just cost an exorbitant amount of money so they can't be bothered with it, or is it something else?
Well, it's really about keeping the image wholesome and keeping people relaxed at the game. And like I said, they didn't have the courage in 1970 after Alan Fish was killed. When were they going to bring? When were they going to finally have this honest conversation with us? They know it's foreseeable and predictable, but they know at the end of the day that a few crushed souls every year is not going to really affect their bottom line. They have like 70 million people going to major league games. They got like 30, 40 million people going to minor league games every single year. So what's a handful of people that lose their eyes or die? It's not going to really affect them. I mean, these people that have interviewed with me, they're bitter, and they want a couple of things which they're not going to get. Which they get shunned by baseball once they're hurt. They don't get their medical bills paid for. They feel they don't feel like ever going back to a game. And even this woman I interviewed who was injured she lost her eye at Shea Stadium in New York in 1979. Years later, she's relieved when she's a mother that she doesn't want her child playing baseball. So, it's just really unfortunate. These people need to be welcomed back into the game. And the only way their gesture will be accepted, I can't speak for them, but I get a sense because I know some of them, that they'll only accept a gesture of goodwill from baseball if it's intended to not happen to anyone else ever again. Other than that, it's all nonsense. It's all, well, oh, you're apologizing. Oh, yeah, now you're like Jenny is probably still waiting since 1979.
Yeah,
She has a compelling story. She was in the hospital. A baseball player who hit the ball. His name's Steve Henderson, and I'm a New York Met fan, so I remember that guy's name. He was the one who hit the ball, and Joel Youngblood came instead because he might have been designated the pretty boy or the errand taker maker at the time. Because maybe he didn't want to come, so they sent Joel Youngblood instead. And she even said, where's Steve Henderson? And they were like, well, they sent me. And her quote was, he was the pretty boy, like, or
gotcha.
he was almost like the mascot to come instead of the guy who did the hitting. But that being said, that didn't change her life. She lost in court. She didn't get her medical bills paid for. And generations later, she doesn't want her kid playing baseball. It has a long-term effect. And also, if you all remember last year during the COVID times, all those cardboard cutouts that were lined up in the seats. Now, I've never been hit or maimed with a foul ball, but these people told me they felt like that was really distasteful. That if the ball would hit the cardboard cutout, that the person would win a prize or something like that. And they thought it was very insensitive. And I was like, very interesting. So I learned things from these people because they're the ones with the scars. Even this guy
Absolutely.
by the name of Dwayne Soa, who just went back to his first Philly game, is feeling nervous. He told me for the book that he wasn't even going to take his child to a baseball game ever, that he would be a basketball fan. But he decided after a few more years, I guess, or maybe it was actually about a year after our interview, he decided to take his child to the game. And the reason why I'm mentioning Dwayne So's name right now is you guys can look up Dwayne. Dwayne's very vocal. He spoke to NBC. Some of the other names, I can't give you the last names till the book comes out. But Dwayne Soa, yep. Hope you're doing good, Dwayne, if you're listening to the podcast. He's had some surgeries. He has upcoming surgeries. At the time he had surgeries, he had the right medical coverage. Now I think he's going to have some issues with the next round of surgeries. Hopefully, you know, he'll get through it.
Yeah.
So
So I
yeah, so people have victims, people have victimized, and I'm just discovering a few of them, and I hope to discover more and give people an opportunity to share their story of foul ball safety now.
Absolutely. And so I guess my last question is, if you could take one action step right now to meet that person with that wealth and influence, what would it be?
The action, what my exchange with them would be is, listen, you guys are in a great position right now. If you're like me and you don't mind offending people that really need to be offended, who don't want to have this conversation with us, I challenge you to call the first foul ball conference ever that I know about, where everyone, including the fans who have an opportunity to give their impact statements, and from that, from the compliance or the non-compliance, from that, meaning if the broadcasters don't show up rank and file, or if the baseball writers don't show up rank and file, or the baseball players or owners don't show up and make a universal presentation on their position, then they're not being honest about the history of this matter, this topic. Then it's time for you to get on board with me. I'm all about dialogue. I'm all about having a forum. I asked the ESPN guy, Willie Weinbaum, at the last Zoom call that we had when I was with my publicity team on April 29th. I said, Willie, why am I hosting these town halls? Why aren't you? And I believe because they have a huge contract with ESPN and they're not going to push this issue far as far as they should. And
Gotcha.
they did some sort of piece, which is also on my website, which is aligned with foul ball safety now. They did a 5-minute video production, which you all should see, and they actually did engage people. They got 750,000 views, 4,300 comments, but it went dry. They didn't promote it, so I've been promoting it. I've spent more than 4 figures on re-engaging on this video because I want fans to see it, because it's actually in line with what I'm doing. Maybe they got some flack from MLB saying, now we're going to get a lot of phone calls because you're telling people to be nervous at baseball games. Well, you know what? That was good journalism. But on one hand, they have that big contract with MLB. They do baseball games. I called out Willie. I said, Willie, why aren't you guys hosting this town hall? And then on the other hand, they did some journalism, but why aren't they still promoting this piece? They probably spent $100,000 on putting together this great piece. Please check it out. So I
Yeah.
like to give credit where credit is due. There's been some writers who wrote about it and said things about it, but not in like a rank and file kind of way. People said things usually in the aftermath of when a child gets hurt, but then they're not doing anything else. They still take the paycheck. They still, announce games or write about baseball. But, say, hey, if your families are informed, why isn't everyone else more informed?
Yeah.
And maybe this has just not been fully transparent. And maybe we can just talk about that big picture.
Jordan,
That's all.
I
Yes,
guess
Tim.
I guess my question was more along the lines of, what could you do right now to meet that person so you can have that discussion with them?
Well, I mean, people. I'm trying on social media. I am doing outreach. I'm attempting to reach baseball players, minor league players. They're great, but they're not former major league players. So anyone out there, please go to foulballsafetynow.com. You're free to talk to me. on or off the record. You could be quoted for the book, or you could just talk to me one on one. Or if you, like I said, any of your listeners want to join me on this venture, there's things we need to do. This is a big struggle, and I don't expect people to come up with any kind of money or any kind of initiative other than signing the petitions. But heck, if there's somebody out there that wants to, put our heads together. The State of the Union is horrible in baseball. I don't want it to be presented any other way. When I was asked at these press conferences, when people would say to me, "Oh, which ballpark is safer?" I was like, "You guys can see my Major League Report 2021 and my Minor League Report 2021. I'm not going to dare judge, what ballpark is safer for kids than others. They all need to be certified as safe." I do know that the fans still, those 4,300 comments on that ESPN video, 80% of them are still negative about netting. They're blaming the fan. They're saying, stay off your phone. One thing has nothing to do with the other. You could be staring without blinking for 3 hours, but you still have no business watching your kid from hooking 100-mile-an-hour balls. You cannot protect your kid. So with these signs about pay attention, or even an announcement from time to time, it's not going to prevent. You're not going to be able to get out of the way. We're not built that way. And baseball knew this, and they continue to know this. I want to remind everyone that they've known this, and they didn't really have an honest conversation with us. They protected their rear end by putting it in microprint, which seems to be that's the way they do things. And I do say they're no different from big tobacco up at the website at foulballsafetynow.com. So, anyone is free to have a dialogue with me. And I believe that's building advocacy. Doesn't have to be somebody who makes seven figures or worth seven figures to take on the other guys that have the seven figures or worth seven figures. It could be a signature. I'm not looking for donations. I'm not a not for profit. But if somebody just wants to put their heads together with me, we'll come up with the next steps. It's all about dialogue. So let's have a dialogue, foul ball safety now. And you may have the right idea on what the best way to go to attract more money, more influence, or just to attract more people to the website.
Yeah.
So
All
I'm
righty.
I'm excited about the journey. I will stay excited about the journey. And this was a great opportunity, Timothy, and thank you for being engaging. And I'm not sure if we have any more time, or if you wanted to ask me anything else.
Oh no, I think we're all good. We are running short on time. These are supposed to run for 30 minutes. So we have filled up this podcast and we have educated our audience
Oh,
today. So
no.
Jordan, thank you so much. This is an issue that affects people in an invisible way. Like not many people have it on their radar. So it's important that you're raising advocacy for it. And I appreciate you and all that you do. So if you were listening to this show and you resonate with something Jordan said, you're a baseball fan, you want America's families to feel safe going to these baseball games, reach out to Jordan, have that conversation. If you know somebody with the deep pockets and the big influence that can start the lobbying and really get the ball rolling on this independent netting council, also reach out to Jordan. Let's make this man's dreams come true, and let's protect the people of America at baseball games, because those are fun and they should stay fun. So Jordan, thank you so much. Do you have anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, that was a great close, Tim.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All
Thank
righty.
you very much. Have a
Uh,
great one. Thank you for your listeners, and thanks for giving me an opportunity tonight.
of course. And on that note, we're out.